we were the ones stupid enough to go, why not? If we put in an offer for it, we won the job, we hadn't even registered the business at that point, it didn't exist. So I came from a very different industry than I'm in today, which started in the event world some, 15 years ago. And that was around temporary moving lights and film sets and, theatres and all the thrilly jazz hand world of working in theatres, stupid long nights, setting up lighting rigs. I got headhunted by Greco and moved into doing big power distribution gensets, which was for the Olympic Games, where I was service manager on the Olympic Games running 650 generators for the London 2012 Olympics, burning through probably hundreds of thousands of gallons of diesel. Massively environmentally friendly world, clearly. And that was to run the whole games on temporary power because they just couldn't pull in enough power off the grid at the time, which was a bit insane, really. At the whole stadium, everything was run off generators. And there was a time we actually floated, I think it was 8 gensets up the Thames on barges, and they got sat outside of the Olympic Stadium to then power the Olympic Stadium, which was just a crazy thing to think that everything was just burning old dinosaur for the whole of the Olympic Games. But it was a massive experience, and that led me on to doing loads of event work. So I then travelled the world doing events everywhere. Every year I'd do Glastonbury Festival. I'd go to Ireland for a couple of months and do loads of temporary setups there, which was a good laugh until the wife decided that being away for 3 to 6 months at a time was not really going to help with the relationship long term. So it was time to settle down, get back to the roots, in which I settled back down in Bristol then and moved back into automotive, which was where I started, and the family started originally. So most of the family's aircraft engineers, automotive world. So I decided to start a new company called Ramp It Up, which was a self-service garage, which I think you've actually got here in the US, where you can go and rent a ramp and tools and do your own work. So I had this great idea. I was like, let's set up a service garage where someone could come and rent a ramp, they can rent tools, and it'll make money. Worst idea in the world. If you're going to rent a ramp to do your own repair work, it's because you haven't got any money. So I learned this after about a year, but I did learn a massive amount at the same time. I met some amazing people. We set up a paint booth. We started doing paint repairs. We did tyre fitting. We did a big mix of stuff, but I had different cars coming in every single day, which was quite exciting. We had people coming in sometimes with R8s fitting their own exhausts, or people with Ferraris at times that would pay a Ferrari mechanic to come in to do work on their car. So yes, there was the people that couldn't afford to do it, but then you also had the people that actually wanted a very specific mechanic to do work on their car, and the only place they could rent a ramp from was where I was, because they couldn't take it into the dealership, and the dealer would know that they were doing work outside of hours. So there was some exciting times, lots of different vehicles, lots of different people, which taught me a massive amount. And then I sort of got to the point, realised that I wasn't making any money after 2 years, which, to be honest, was an expensive mistake, but a mistake, and I learned from it. And I think the most important thing for me was learning when to fail and how to fail in business was the key thing. Like with Felton now, if I hadn't done that and failed, I wouldn't be where I am today, especially from understanding of all the hidden costs that you don't know with business. Like, what are business rates? What are the extra taxes you've got to pay? What's this insurance you've got to have for employees? Like, there's all these things that you get into business. You go, I just got to pay the rent and the bills, and that's it. And then there's all this other stuff as you grow, which becomes a massive thing. So that taught me a huge amount about the business and when to walk away and decide that actually I put enough time into that. It's not going to work. Just forget about it, move on, go into something else. Which then led me to setting up my own small shop to just do high-end one-off cars only then. So did an Audi R8 V10, which was a Category D salvage, repaired that with a group of friends. We did a Liberty Walk wide body kit on that and left all the carbon on display. So we lacquered all the carbon, black 3SDM custom wheels with the gold bolts in them. So just really nice and subtle. Went to a load of events with that. We did some stuff with Auto Finesse and a couple of shows with that. I think we won Best VIP at Gravity show in the UK, which is quite a big show. And then a high net worth customer came in one day with a split screen camper van and was like, look, I've got this camper van, but no one will touch it because I want to put a Tesla system in it. And at that point, no one wanted to touch this stuff. This was probably 2017. It was a new thing. There was no support online. And it was like, right, you're going to pay my hourly rate for me to learn how to do this. And that was what the agreement was. So I sort of got this massive opportunity, which was very different to what I'd already been working on. But it was, I'm actually going to get paid to learn right now, which is great, and actually start playing with Tesla parts and try and not kill myself, basically. So that then moved on to doing design and development, building the mounts, mounting this motor in the back of the split screen, building a custom battery pack to go up in the floor. But alongside that, I had the idea of actually, why don't I do one myself? At the time, I'd just written off my 350Z on track. I was going to convert that, and then I realised I'd actually bent the chassis more than I wanted to admit when I fell off track. So that got broke for parts. And I came across a Nissan R32 Skyline GTST, not a GTR, as everyone on YouTube keeps telling me for ruining a GTR, that was a rolling chassis, no engine and box, was destined for the scrapyard. It's like 1,800 quid. I was like, right, I'll buy that, convert that to electric, which was the start of everything at that point. I bought a Chevy Volt battery pack, which was like the hybrids that are out, which they're crazy. They can output like 1,000 amps at peak. So they're actually big batteries, but they're really good power-wise. And a Tesla large performance drive unit from a Plaid, or the sport version back then. And I was like, just bolt this into a Skyline and it'll work, which clearly was not the case. So then got into all the forums, started trying to work out how do you get all these bits to work together? How do you get a Tesla motor to talk to a different battery? And then getting into battery management systems, which manage the cells to keep them happy, to stop them setting on fire and all that sort of stuff. So I started learning that, and then building boxes to hold the batteries. I started looking at the US market and quite quickly realized that actually the US retrofit and classic conversion market was not particularly safe. It's got a lot safer, but it was a lot of battery boxes not in cases that were open to the elements. And being in the UK, we get a lot of rain. So that doesn't work very well with batteries, with a lot of water. So built battery boxes, started learning how to wire battery management systems up, which is, you've got hundreds of wires to monitor this stuff, which is like so daunting at the beginning. Once you get your head around it, it's actually a lot simpler. As everyone says, EVs are a lot less moving parts and a lot simpler. Realistically, once you get your head around it, that's normally the case. They normally become a lot simpler. It's just it gets into the software side of things then, which became the massive issue for me. Was I'd never touched software and electronics in my life at that point. I wasn't even a particularly good sort of auto electrician either. So that was the big learning curve, is how am I going to actually wire this stuff together to make it operate? And I got into a thing called Open Inverter Forum, which was a load of guys doing open source stuff to allow use of Tesla parts by replacing components to make them work. And that was quite interesting. I mean, one thing I did learn quite quickly with the open source world there was it's great for sharing, but nothing's ever quite finished. So it's a good stepping stone, but it's never quite finished. So got the Skyline working to the point where it would do burnouts, which was all I wanted it for. It wasn't particularly nice to drive on the road. And that then meant we gained a really good new job, actually, that no one wanted. So EV West had turned it down. A couple of the other EV shops had gone, I'm not touching this. Basically, there was a Chinese company that owned casinos in Macau, just outside of China, and they wanted to do an all-electric show called Electron, I think it was, which was every vehicle in the show was going to be electric, and they needed to find someone stupid enough that would actually build some cars for this show, that would allow them to go out twice a day and do so many minutes of drift demos. And at the start, me and Alex, my business partner, who started Felton with, back then it was called Zero EV, we were the ones stupid enough to go, well, why not? If we put in an offer for it, we won the job. We hadn't even registered the business at that point. It didn't exist. So then we were running around, how do we set a bank account? How do we register the business? Because we just won this project. So we basically jumped in at the deep end and went from, instead of doing little Hyper 9 low voltage systems, to let's just do full high voltage systems based off Tesla parts, which no one else at the time was stupid enough to do. And I can understand why now. It was a painful process, but we basically ended up working with a company called SHP in the UK and built 3 full space frame chassis, so tubular chassis, Tesla battery pack in the floor, Model S motor in the rear. We did a Quaife ATB diff, and we did some lock diffs just so they can do drifting and stuff like that. And then we bought 2 Nissan 350Zs and just cut the floor out of them and just dropped them on these chassis. We bought 1 Porsche 996, cut the floor out of that and dropped it on. But the Porsche was pretty special. So the Porsche was a fire car. So this was an EV, which everyone was scared of fire anyway, that was set up as a fire car. So it would go out and it would basically have flames engulf the whole back end of the car. And it would have these really cool jets on the back of the wheels, like the Back to the Future car, when he hits 80 miles an hour, he disappears and leaves his lines. It would drop that around it and it would drive over it. So it would drive over the fire with the battery pack underneath. Luckily, touch wood, no issues at all, didn't have one problem, was reliable, perfect, never set on fire even though it was on fire for the show. So that was quite an interesting thing to do. After that led on then the company to grow, and we moved in massively into other industries and started to support the EV retrofit market, because we started learning that nothing talked to each other, nothing worked properly, no one was doing anything to an OEM standard. It was, if the problem with the battery, just shut the whole car down. It's like, don't limit it, don't dynamically slow the car down or do anything like that. It will just shut it down. And so we've started basically writing software, hardware to allow everything to seamlessly integrate, which has been a long process. And it's probably taken us the best part of 4 years now to get to a point where everything just talks, works properly together and actually plays nicely together. We've done some really exciting projects in the film industry for people like Disney, Universal and things like that around electric vehicles. I'm not going to say the exact vehicles, but there's an amazing Batmobile for Robert Pattinson that's actually electric. And there were some really exciting yellow Fiat 500s in a recent Impossible film that were fully electric. And those things were absolutely insane because they were 500 brake horsepower Tesla large drive units in something that weighed hundreds of kilos. And we did some interesting stuff when we were away doing filming on those ones. We're racing them against other cars when we were at racetracks for the day doing testing and stuff. So we had some really exciting times with that. And since then we've now moved into retrofit, which is the area I think that a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with. You have a lot of people that love classics but think it's completely sacrilege to rip the engine out. But then you have the younger generation which are absolutely useless when it comes to anything to do with maintenance and repair. They don't know how to change the oil. They don't know what a spark plug is. They definitely don't know how to tune and set up a carburetor. So I think that we end up in this weird place where the older generation, some of them hate us. The younger generation love classics but have no idea how to look after them and maintain them, so are starting to lose interest in classics and keep buying brand new cars. So this merge of the EV side of things suddenly allows this beautiful classic car to become daily drivable for older, younger, and any generation. Like things like an old E-Type, they look stunning, but they drive horribly. And there's reliability issues, and the engines are really expensive to repair and all this stuff, but suddenly you put an EV powertrain in it and you can jump in and drive it every single day. And I think that was becoming the big thing for us as we've been moving forward now, is what cars are the best ones to do a retrofit kit for, to an OEM quality standard so they can be driven every single day. Now we have the haters, which are the Porsche lovers, which I don't blame them, and we do a Porsche kit. And everyone hates us for doing a Porsche kit, but there's some companies out there now like Sacrilege Motors. I think there's Everati out there, they do an electric Porsche, and there's a range of other companies. Motors in Texas are actually using our kits now in their Porsches as well. And they're delivering Porsches out there, but it's a very specific demographic. But what we have found is there's the die-hard Porsche fans that when they're in a group, they all hate you for doing it. When they're outside of the group, they're like, oh, actually, I could have one of these that I drive every day, and I keep my other collection of Porsches untouched. So they secretly come out and want them, but when everyone else looks at them, they don't want anyone to know about it. So there's a handful of them that have actually bought high-end electric Porsches now to have as one of their collection of Porsches. So they've got something they can drive every day and not put miles on their really high-end, expensive collector's item Porsches. But the car we did recently, which we actually did for BMW, which was the classic Minis, which was for the new launch of the electric Minis, which I think are the Coopers in the US. And we built 5 of them for the marketing team. Including one for Paul Smith, who's a famous designer, one for a person called LaQuena. And we actually developed that into a full bolting kit that was checked over and signed off by the German engineers, which was a lot of hassle. But we actually built that now as a kit. The classic Mini is so well suited to being electric because the engine was absolutely awful in it anyway. And as soon as you went for a puddle, it would shut down. So making it electric means it's now reliable. You can actually go through water in it and it doesn't shut down. And it's 4 or 5 times faster than it was before at the same weight. So it's just this electric go-kart that just, you smile the whole time you drive it. And out of everything I've ever built, the Mini is actually my favourite car we built. And we've built all sorts of random stuff, but the Mini's just the most fun thing out of everything. And the only other car we're currently doing is the Land Rover Defender for agricultural, and I think it's got 360 kilowatt of motor, so it's ridiculously quick. You're going to be 4 or 5 seconds 0 to 60. But we've done this really cool thing. We built a torque vectoring gearbox, so it's 2 motors, central gearbox, but inside the gearbox it's split in 2 parts. So you can control the front and rear axle separately. So in theory, you can sit on the spot, put them against each other and just do a crazy burnouts and not move anywhere. Or you can spin in circles and do loads of stupid stuff, basically. So there's some cool things that we're messing around with now because we've got to a size where we can. Yeah, and it's still crazy busy, really enjoyable. And hopefully we'll be in the US at some point over the next year and start setting up our operation over here and try to get some of the Americans on side for the classic car conversion.
Over the last 4 years, we've partnered with Glossit to show off some of their amazing detailing products, give you some great deals, and show how much they can transform any car. But did you know that Glossit University is also one of the most amazing online resources for education, mentorship, and coaching for whatever your business is in the detailing space? Whether you do paint correction, ceramic coating, PPF, wraps, anything like that, they can take your business to the next level. And right now, they're offering free 15-minute phone consultations where you can schedule at the link link in the description below. Tell them about your goals, tell them about your business, about yourself, and really where you want to get to, and they'll show you if they're online courses, they're in-person classes, where I'll actually be in their August class, or they're one-on-one or group mentorship programs with Rich Light from Glossit. It's an awesome way to take your business to that next level. So set up your phone consultation now, talk to them about where you're at today, and they'll tell you where you could be tomorrow.